So, what exactly do we do? In this episode, we'll discuss how we make money that allows us to travel, maintain healthy habits, and enjoy the overall freedom that remote work has to offer. I'm Lee Payton in Da Nang, Vietnam, and I'm joined by my co host, Reese Harris. So, for this episode, we'll focus on what reason I do for work today. We'll get into how we both got here at another time, and we'll also discuss side projects and future plans in another episodes. Currently, I'm a fractional CMO, marketing agency owner, and performance consultant to remote entrepreneurs. My marketing work includes multiple agency contracts and several direct client accounts. I currently write for healthcare tech, defense and intelligence, the legal industry, home services, some air travel, nonprofit and charities, pet supplies, and some financial gurus. Within these, I do some email campaign management, web content, social media, and some sales funnels. And even as of this morning, believe it or not, I wrote a 2-page magazine ad for a print ad that's coming up that'll be published in Northern Virginia. To date, I've written nearly 1,000 Reddit ads in partnership with their in-house marketing team. This includes ads for BMW, Apple, Pedigree, L'Oreal, M&M's, Gillette, H&M, Duolingo, Kraft, Volvo, the Wall Street Journal, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, American Airlines, Masterclass, and Netflix. So as of today, I'm working with 5 different. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous. That's why I'm not doing the 4-hour workday that everybody fucking talks about. Like everybody we know, all of our friends talk about, just work for three hours a day. But we'll get into that at a later time. That sometimes when you're new, it's just when you're new, sometimes you just have to work hard. And even though I'm not new, I'm really putting in the hours. So I've got 5 agency contracts, and within those agencies, there are multiple clients. I have 4 independent clients aside from that are direct. And, I manage my own projects through my own agency, and that's mainly home services, the air conditioner stuff that I do in the U.S., which is, of course, everybody needs air conditioning. And if the world keeps getting warmer, more people are going to need air conditioners. So I'll skip the rest of my nonsense here. Maybe we'll link a portfolio in the show notes if anybody cares to read my boring background there. But because of all this hard work, long hours, and the contracts that I just mentioned, even though they started very small, for the first 6 months, I didn't have any work at all. And I was able to build that up. And because of all that work, I'm able to travel remotely and basically live on my terms now. I mean, aside from some long hours here and there, but I left the U.S. 2 years ago for Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Then I was over in Tenerife, Spain last year. And on this particular trip, to Bali, Indonesia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I'm currently in Da Nang, Vietnam. And I plan to go back to the U.S. for the summer, and then maybe off to Costa Rica and South America next winter. So even though it's a lot of work starting off, and I'm a busy guy, I'm living on my terms. I'm staying in an Airbnb now that's inside a nice 5-star hotel here on Da Nang Beach. I take the elevator to the gym. I take the elevator again later down to the coffee shop or up to the rooftop bar. So, to say that there's not hard work involved, and if you see people posting about working 2 hours a day, maybe they can. I don't, but it's doable. But even with putting in the long day, I'm not commuting anymore. I'm not sitting in a cubicle. I'm not dealing with all that nonsense. So with that, Reese, I'll turn it over to you if you want to do a quick rundown.
I mean, yeah, before I jump into my background, I think just to push into that point a little bit more, the whole idea behind what we're doing is we have the control. So if someone wants to work 12 hours a day because they love what they do, great, go for it. But the point is, you don't have a boss that's telling you to be in the office or be online by a certain time. Like you can control and to build the kind of business you want to get to 2 hours a day. It is definitely possible. If you're picking the right industries and you're getting the right clients, like it's 100% possible. But yeah, like some people do still work the same hours they were working for a corporate job or whatever job it was, but at least they love what they're doing now. Or they have a business that gives them the lifestyle they want. They have the free time so they can spend doing other things, whether that's being creative, a lot of content creation around right now, or if it's just enjoying activities and stuff like that, especially if people are traveling at the same time. Like some people want to work 3-4 hours a day and then spend 6 hours a day experiencing new things, meeting new people, etc. So yeah, for anyone watching, like, this is, and I'll go into my stuff in a second, this is how we're doing it, but it's kind of because it's what we want right now.
Yeah, and I should point out too, with all the hours that I put in, that's not necessarily, I don't consider that a negative thing. I actually enjoy working, and I like working on the weekends too, because while the rest of the world is off, like all the clients and all the 9 to 5ers that I do work for are off work, I am able to get a lot of work done. So the weekends are kind of my quiet time in the mornings. So even though I have a lot on my plate right now, I'm managing multiple projects as a subcontractor, and I'm also managing my own projects with my own team. Most of the hours I put in are because I enjoy doing it. Obviously I want to dial that back a little bit, but to your point, it could totally be done. You can work as little or as much as you want to. So this type of work definitely allows you the freedom to do that. But I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just the kind of context, I'm going to go a little bit further back. So early mid-20s, literally running around, kind of wasting my life a little bit, having a lot of fun, back in the UK, zero direction, whatever. And the pandemic hit, and I knew I had to turn the life around. Lost tons of weight. It was like 45 pounds. Managed to get a stable job, which was quite good. Get some regular income coming in. Learned a ton. It was for a marketing agency in London. Really enjoyed the amount of learning, the pace of learning, and spent 3-4 years there building up the skills and expertise. Now, literally as of the last 8 months, left that role, started my own copywriting business, and I've been traveling ever since, been dotting around Europe here and there. The type of work I'm doing, it's mostly copywriting. I built other skills over the last 5 years. I build websites as well. So I have a couple of agency contracts. One of them I'm building websites for and project managing websites, website projects. And then the other 2 agencies, I am delivering email copywriting, email strategy, and helping on the sales side as well for one of those agencies. So going back to the kind of niching, there's tons of value in niching. It's not to be frowned upon, but if you're someone that's not quite sure what they want to specialize in, or they just like doing different things, you can definitely do that as well. I wake up and I have stuff to do on a website. I have project management to do. I have some strategy to do, and I have writing to do. And for now, that kind of works for me. Definitely I haven't worked with big hitters like you, Lee, in terms of some of the big brands you've mentioned, but I am working with an agency in New York who have some really big clients on board. Some YouTube stars, which I've been writing for, which is quite fun. And it's quite a mix of industries. I'm doing a lot of writing for CBD and cannabis. And in fact, one of the recent clients they've taken on is like, most of their clients in the CBD world are like, it's quite professional, authoritative. You can be a little bit fun with the copy, the writing. But this new one is like full blown cannabis, like to quote them, I can write unhinged. So it's quite nice to be able to like write all the kind of like weed stoner terms that I've been wanting to. I used to smoke back in the day. But it's quite funny going from that and then writing for like YouTube stars that are like very kid focused. So the language is like all over the place, which is quite fun. It's a nice variety. But yeah, that's my main focus at the moment, a mix of all those things.
Yeah, no, I just to touch on your point too about the niche thing. I think we've done pretty well. You and I have done pretty well not focusing on one thing, and I do enjoy getting up in the morning and having different things to do. That's just me. I like the variety of the projects, but there's also a lot of money to be made if somebody wanted to focus on one specific thing. So I think that having the opportunity to either, if you don't know what you want to do, just try a whole bunch of things like we've done. And that allows us to also manage projects because now we have experience in so many different things. We could manage larger teams. But that said, if somebody's coming into this and they just want to focus on one particular thing, dive right in and go straight for that. So, but I didn't mention too, back before I left Florida, I was in a similar situation you were. I mean, I had a good job there, doing the whole corporate thing. I was a private investigator at the time. So I was, putting in some long hours there too, following people around for insurance fraud and everything else, and marriage problems and child custody. So it sounds interesting, but like any other job, it's 90% bullshit and 10% interesting. But
Any good stories
yeah,
that
a
you could
lot.
share?
um, I'll have to outline a few, and we'll definitely talk about it someday though, because like I said, it's mostly nonsense, but it's everything. The thing is with those stories from back then aren't that funny anymore because we've got reality TV. So like all that nonsense you see like on the Real Housewives and all those shows, I'm just picking on that one, but there's a lot. The stories I have to tell wouldn't be that shocking, just because we could see it every day. Like you see, rich people doing crazy shit every day. But I was kind of falling into the same pattern. Like I was definitely drinking too much. I mean, that's been a thing of mine for 25 years now, and I love to drink. We were just talking before we started recording about how it'd be nice to have a beer, but it shuts my brain off, But I had to get away from just that whole, not just the corporate lifestyle, but just the South Florida lifestyle. Shout out to all my friends there, but similar path. I think we both had to get out of where we were and focus on what we're doing now, and be able to put the time in. So
Yeah, and if anyone's in that situation now, watching, who maybe they don't have any direction or they've got bad habits, like you can 100% get out of it. You're going to need support, for sure. But like we are living examples of, like I'm in Cyprus right now. I'm sat on the top of a co-working space, which I'm able to afford every month. I'm living in a resort in Paphos, huge pool, like a nice flat on my own. Like you can get out of it, and there's lots of options, and we're ultimately here to help you with that.
yeah, and that you make a point too. Like people probably, well, they can tell by my extremely gray hair, and it's the gray shirt that makes my hair look gray. But I'll be 43 here in a few weeks, and so to your point about like no matter where you're at, you can get out of it. So I was in the military for a while, then I worked for the U.S. government for a while, and then this is my fifth or sixth business. The reason I don't remember is because most of them failed. But point being, you can reinvent yourself many times over. I was in that government job where I thought, this is it. I'm going to work this until I either die doing it or retire and just do what retirees do, move to Florida, which is where I ended up moving anyway. But I went to the private sector, found out it was very similar to the government, just different people, but same disorganization and same long hours. And you're working for somebody else's, money. They're making the money, you're getting paid, whatever. And that's okay if that's the life that you want to live. But the freedom that we have now, just not only being remote, but being our own business owners. But my point is I was in very different jobs before this. And it wasn't until I was 41 when I left Florida and went to Mexico and started this whole copywriting gig. So, and that was no experience whatsoever. So we're talking, I think I have my count up clock here on one of my dashboards, 557 days, I think I've been copywriting. And I've done pretty well, and it's been a lot of hard work. But to your point, you can reinvent yourself. So if you're sitting somewhere and you're 20 years old and you don't know what to do, you can do this. If you're 50 and you think like, well, I've worked at, this job for my entire life, it doesn't make sense for me to stop and start over. It is scary, but I went through it. I went from something completely different from this and jumped into it and was able to learn. And within 2 years or less than 2 years now, I'm back up to the same salary, the same amount of income that I was making in Florida. And it's pretty good. So you could be at any stage. You're not locked into anything. You could be 60 years old and decide you want to travel. And we just use marketing and copywriting as our example because that's what we do. But there's a lot of other remote jobs and opportunities that we can help you with.
Yeah, 100%. Man, I'm earning almost double what I was earning, and I'm working half the amount of time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I imagine for people that are, more at midlife, that they've actually got a hell of an advantage. Like they have, one, they have 20 years of life experience, no matter what it is. And even if someone looking back and thinking it's not the best life experience, they're probably wrong. because someone will see that as valuable. And so they're probably sitting on a ton of skills that they just need to package and then find and decide who their ideal clients are and then just go after them. People at like 20, it's in one sense more difficult because they don't have 20 years of experience doing something and they're kind of fresh. But there's other advantages to being in that position. Of course, they've got way more time to play with and fail, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I realize that a lot of people in my position at my age, starting over, you've got your bills and everything. You've got probably a mortgage. You may or may not have a family. And the beauty of doing this type of job or learning from us, how we got here, is that you don't have to completely give up what you're doing now in order to start learning. Obviously, the more you get into this, the more you immerse yourself in it, the faster you'll get there. But even if you're just working your regular job during the day and you've only got an hour or so here and there to pick up a new skill, and like you said, you could package anything. I mean, there was stuff that I thought would not apply to anything that I'm doing now. Even some of the work I did in law enforcement years ago, which we'll get into later on too. But even some of that work, I mean, just dealing with people and everything else, I mean, it all applies. There's nothing that you've done, whether you've done it well or you totally sucked at it, that isn't some type of foundational thing that compounds and snowballs to help you later on. So I think it all applies.
Going back to the kind of clients you've worked with and the stuff you've done over the last year, we can go into it in more detail in another episode in terms of like client acquisition. But how did you get those clients?
So this is a great question, actually, and there's a little bit of divide in our industry on this. So I didn't know what to do in the beginning as far as getting clients. I mean, the obvious answer is, get out there and start prospecting. The thing is, especially after COVID, there are a lot of people out there doing that. Everybody wanted to be a writer or a marketer all of a sudden, or a social media writer. So if you go, for example, like if I went on LinkedIn right now and applied to a job, you can see how many other applicants there are. So let's say I type in copywriting jobs and I went in and you could apply to those, but there's like 250 or 200 plus applicants for each job. So that's a little disheartening going that route. And then some other people that we work with have had very good luck doing. I think you've even done it yourself. You've done some cold outreach and gotten a couple of clients. In the beginning, I wasn't sure what to do. So quite honestly, I just went to the freelancing platforms. One of them was Upwork and the other one's Fiverr. And again, I still, in my mind, I thought, I'm 40 years old. This is like a platform that's going to be full of 20-year-old designers and influencers. And, I just had this stupid thought in my head. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I just heard some negative things. And I got on there, and Upwork specifically got my first couple of clients on there. And Upwork's not paying for this podcast or anything like that. They're not sponsoring us, and this isn't their clothing or anything like that. But to be honest, it's going to a platform where there are people there actively looking for you. It's warm leads. You're not reaching out to somebody hoping you hear back, not even sure if they're going to get your email or your message. Upwork, those people are there for work, and they can find you and you can find them. So to answer your question, the bigger clients came from platforms like Upwork, where I was able to start work, open a contract with somebody, do a few jobs, get a rating, build a relationship, and eventually we moved off the platform. So for Reddit's in-house team, for example, that's a contract through a contract. A good friend of mine in California has that now, and that was an Upwork contract. Some of the larger defense and intelligence stuff that I do was originally an Upwork contract. So that's just been my path, and I've also set other people up on there. My cousin's doing it now. He's had pretty good luck. So the freelance platforms, for somebody who's new, who doesn't have a portfolio, who wants to get started with a couple of jobs, I think are the way to go. Those work for me. But didn't you do some cold outreach or take a different route?
Yeah, I did. But just to tack onto the Upwork thing, it's also there's naturally going to be some like fears or doubt about doing that kind of thing. Like, is it saturated? All that sort of stuff. Ultimately, people are still signing up with new profiles and still getting gigs, which is what Upwork calls it, I think, right? but it's basically projects. It's good to go into it with the mindset of you win or you learn. So as in you either get the project or you do learn something from not getting it. You at least know what the demand is for different things just by looking at it, just scrolling through and be like, cool, there are companies that are looking for these things and they're going to Upwork because they want to work with freelancers. So you have an idea that there are companies out there happy to work with freelancers. And what you'll find is happy to work with freelancers that are, slightly more junior as well. So there's only upside. I guess the downside is time taken, but I think it's worth it to either get the learnings or obviously get the job. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, speaking of timing to do it, I just set my thing for 10 minutes every morning. I would go on and do it. So you could work your day around it. They do charge a little bit. And again, this varies on platform, but you're 100% right about just seeing what's out there. And they even have a category now. It's getting better. Upwork's getting better by the day, but they have a category on there now. There are some, I think 300 plus Fortune 500 companies are on there now looking for talent. So it's not what I think everybody had in their minds years ago, where it's just a bunch of people asking for a logo here and there. There are some major contracts to be had on there now, in the tens of thousands of dollars. So
awesome. If you're listening, get on it, start going. I did cold email, so I didn't do it the right way. There's ways to do it. There's technical things to know to prevent your cold emails going into spam and such. And I followed them lightly, as in I didn't send way too many emails. I didn't bulk send thousands of emails out. I did it probably the painstakingly slow process of manually sending out 5 to 10. I think at one point I got up to 30 emails a day. These are manual emails, some with a little bit of personalization to the client, but most of them weren't even personalized. They were kind of just send them out there, or just the tiniest bit of personalization in the subject line, for example. And I think I sent 200 before I got a single response. And then I got to, by the time I'd sent 350, 400, I'd had 10 calls. And at that point, I secured one client, which was great. And this whole process took 3 to 4 weeks, which in the scheme of things that's nothing, to actually get a first client. And then in a total of probably 500 emails got me 2 clients. And those 2 clients are 2/3 of the work that I have now. And I've been working for them for 4 to 6 months. So it was kind of easy. There's a bit of luck thrown in there. Of course, I leverage my experience in a marketing agency. So if you're someone with agency experience, leverage the fuck out of that, because it's really, really valuable. If you are completely fresh starting out, I think it's important to leverage your personal connections, friends, family, your local area. Go and find a local business, possibly even one that you're a customer of, because I don't know, most people have a coffee shop at least, and you could do something for them for free. It's absolutely fine to do it for free, just to get a testimonial or something you can then use in this email and say, by the way, I did this for Cafe. They had they were really happy with the work, or it generated some results. And then you can go after similar clients. That's the kind of easier approach, is if you've done some work for a type of client, then go after other clients because they see you've worked with their type of business before and they like that. But yeah, we can go into more detail on the client acquisition side, but there's tons of ways to do it.
Yeah. And people starting off too, and even now, I think about things I have to accomplish in the next few days, it's a little overwhelming for me. And we all fall into it, especially when you're starting off with a new job. It's you look at everybody else, and I forget the quote, but don't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle or end. I'm sure we'll repeat that over and over again throughout our episodes. But there's nothing I've done where I haven't looked back. For example, a year ago, when I was in it, trying to build up the client base, and I was like, oh man, I can't believe I'm sending out all these prospects. Because even on Upwork, even though they're warm leads, you'd send out, I don't know, like 20, 25 prospecting cover letters a day. And I would hear back from maybe 2 a week. And then, as you know, out of those 2, or out of 10, maybe one of them gets back to you, and then they end up like disappearing too. So there's a lot of failure there. So just like you mentioned with everything that you had to send out, it sounds like like, oh, it's a lot of work. I don't want to have to keep doing this. I don't want to have to send out so many emails a day. But now looking back, like anything else in life, looking back now, I'm like, oh, that wasn't too bad at all. Yeah, when you're in it, it seems like an eternity. And then when you look back, you're like, well, that was only a couple of months, and I was able to, get 2-3 clients that are, afford me a $10,000, 10K month, 15K month, or even a $1,000 month, earnings, enough to get started to prove the model. And you're right about the, working for free. A lot of people say, oh, never work for free. You're worth this or worth that. And that's true to an extent, but you have to start somewhere. And,
But
doing a
also,
few.
sometimes you're not worth that.
Yeah, well, yeah,
sometimes you're just not.
that's
Like,
true.
you can't. Like, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you worth the same as someone that is charging?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, if you've got absolutely no experience, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not like your self-worth is low. Your identity is worthless. That's not what we're saying. It's
Right.
that, look, like, it's almost like, it may not be fair or good, but like, it's kind of just the way it is. So like, either play the game or complain. Like,
Yeah.
just if you've got an opportunity, I don't think it needs to be like, find a 40-hour a week project and do that for free. That's different. But if it's the case of like doing, maybe a 3 or 4 hour project just for free, but you get a testimonial return, you get a good contact that might lead to referrals in the future. Like, it's worth you are essentially paying that, right? You're not getting paid for it, but you're going to pay with your time 4 hours of your life. 4 hours of your life. You're going to pay to get something in return still. You might not be getting money, but what you're getting is the potential to make more money with that.
Right.
And I think that's really important to know. It's like, that you get way more things out of stuff than just money. Like, I've done plenty of work this year that is literally lower value in terms of not getting paid necessarily that much. And with direct clients, it would be a lot more. But I'm getting so much experience writing for different brands, so much experience, and that can be leveraged in the future to then make more money. And I think it's kind of like just accepting, like, it's not going to all come in at once. You're going to have to put in the work and get the experience. Even when you're saying about Upwork, like, you're doing 25 proposals, it's like, and you say failure. Well, I don't even think it's failure. It's like no, you spent 25. You spent the amount of time it took you to write 25 proposals that didn't get it, but you got much better at writing proposals in that time. So you got a return, and so again, it's I think replacing the feeling or term of failure with learning is quite important as well, to be sustainable, because it's probably a long kind of road. Not to say that you can't get stuff done quickly, but like, if you look at the whole business over time, like, it's going to be a bit of a journey.
Just to tie it into with volunteering some time and working for free, just think about all the time that you'd have to spend getting a professional degree. You'd spend $60,000-$70,000 or whatever to get. Sometimes that's 1 year, sometimes it's a whole degree. So if you look at it in the sense that, a couple hours here and there, or if it bothers you that much, or you just have an issue and if you truly want to volunteer your time and you want to feel good about it, you can do what I did in the beginning. Go volunteer to do some copywriting for a nonprofit, for an organization or a charity. You could get the best of both worlds there. You could write for them for free, and then that's your donation. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, to tailor that in. So
I like that idea. And if anyone hasn't gone to uni yet, I'm not going to advise you not to go to uni. There's lots of benefits from going to uni, but do consider that. I mean, in the US it's way more, but in the UK, I was the first year in the UK that they tripled the price. So it
Oh,
was like $3,000 a year, which probably in the US that's insanely cheap, obviously, but for us, like $3,000 a year, and then it went up to 9 in my year. But yeah, if you're thinking of, if you, God, if I had like a loan for 50 grand to spend, I don't think I'd spend it
yeah.
on uni.
No, you're better
God.
off buying a crappy apartment or flat somewhere and just making some rental income these days. But the whole our education system and the Western education system is a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. So next week we'll be getting into framing and a little bit more mindset on some of the things we touched on today. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. Links will be in the show notes, and please do us a favor, subscribe. Leave a comment on the video if you have any questions or any topics that you'd like us to cover. We do read every comment, even the nasty ones. So go ahead and have at it. Go ahead and make fun of my hair or our audio or something else. That's okay. But we appreciate everybody, and we'll see you next week.